Welcome to Infinity Sports, everybody. We're excited for today's episode. It is our 2021 NFL mock draft episode, 32 picks, no trades. So Sully's going to say, hey, listen, we'll talk about it. We'll say, there might be a trade here, but just because, that would just be too, time consuming to figure out trades and all that stuff. We're just going to kind of straight picks. Hey, you're muted right now. Did you mute yourself?
Yeah, sorry. Too convoluted, too much to go through with the trades. I think, there are a couple that I think are probably going to happen, and we'll mention them. And the deeper we get into it, obviously we'll do some trades. But right now it's just a straight mock. You know what I mean?
Obviously, if you are listening to the show, we appreciate you downloading and streaming the episode. If you want some bonus content, like today is a video episode for sure, because we got all kinds of videos for every prospect, graphics, and so on. Definitely check us out on YouTube. We are available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and, of course, YouTube Live, as well as all of our videos are found on YouTube in case you want to go back and watch them. Feel free to reach out to the show or follow the show at Infinity Sports Podcast, at Infinity Sports Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and then Sports Infinity 5 on Twitter. So definitely do that. And of course, today's mock draft episode is brought to you by Invader Coffee. 100% organic, 100% air roasted, 100% money back, 100% money back guarantee. Yeah. So veteran owned, 15% off if you enter Belly Up when you go to purchase your stuff. Definitely support the show, support Invader Coffee, and get yourself some coffee.
Yep. And like I've said before, it's delicious. It's great coffee. So make sure you get in there.
Our boy Jesse says, excited for this, Sully. So we are excited as well. We can't wait to get the ball rolling, which we will do, obviously, kicking right things off. There's no news. There's no dilly-dally. We are going right to the Jacksonville Jaguars have the first overall pick in the draft. I don't think it's going to be a surprise, but I do have some questions for you afterwards. Who are the Jacksonville Jaguars going to take with pick number 1?
Jesse, you're going to like the Patriots pick. I promise you that. No shock here. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going Trevor Lawrence. The guy's been my number one prospect for probably 2-3 years now. As great as Joe Burrow was, Trevor Lawrence would have been the number one pick last year if he came out. He's just that good of a quarterback. And I understand people look at numbers, raw numbers, and see things differently. But if you look at this play right here, what Trevor Lawrence is asked to do is completely different than any other college or any other quarterback in college football. He runs a pro-style offense. He's asked to make multiple reads. He's asked to throw downfield throws with single isolation coverage where, he has to make these throws. Meanwhile, you see guys like Zach Wilson and Justin Fields, and their offenses are kind of designed for Justin Fields to wait for open crossers, and he's thrown to wide open guys and things like that. It's more schemed offense, not actually true NFL offense like Trevor Lawrence is. His floor is just so low. So high that it's just, yes, Justin Fields could be better. Yes, Zach Wilson could obviously be better. Trevor Lawrence at worst is going to be Derek Carr in this league. He just is.
So Jesse does ask, how does Lawrence compare to Josh Allen?
Much more advanced in passing. They're both, honestly, I think that's a great comp athletically. And arm. I think Josh Allen's arm strength is a tick better, but Trevor Lawrence's isn't bad by any means. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence has insanely more accuracy. He's able to read defenses much better coming out. I think, let's put it this way, Trevor Lawrence is Josh Allen right now, I think. Not when Josh Allen came out as a prospect.
Well, Josh Allen, I think, too, is wildly inaccurate at first. He's obviously developed some accuracy. That's one of the things with Lawrence is a very accurate passer.
Yeah, Lawrence is going to walk in and complete 64 to 65% of his passes day one. That's just who he is.
Well, that was my question for you is day one. So I was going to do the Jacksonville Jaguars keep Gardner Minshew as a starter for the first 6 to 8 games, and then Lawrence takes over, or is he just starter day one?
I truly think he's a starter day one. When you're that great of a prospect, he's NFL ready. He's going to be able to understand playbooks and read defenses and things like that. I'd start him. I truly would. You have granted here. This difference between Joe Burrow's situation and Trevor Lawrence's situation is in Jacksonville they have a starting quarterback in Gardner Minshew. Yes, he's not going to wow anybody, but he can start you ball games. Cincinnati didn't have that. They were forced to start Joe Burrow. But at the same time, I think Trevor Lawrence beats out Trevor Minshew in camp easily and is the starter.
Well, there is no mystery, obviously, with the first overall pick. The intrigue begins, I think, at number 2 with the New York Jets. There's no trades here. I think isn't one of those picks that could get traded, as we get closer to the draft. But for the sake of the mock draft, if the New York Jets are forced to stay at the second overall pick, where are they going?
I have them going Justin Fields with this pick, the quarterback from Ohio State. And truthfully, I'm not – man, this pick is so up in the air for me. It's truthfully one where I could see them going 5 different directions at this point. Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, trade down, Penei Sewell all make really, really, really good sense for this ball club. I couldn't pass a quarterback here in this situation. Justin Fields is a better prospect than Sam Darnold was. Zach Wilson is a better prospect than Sam Darnold was. Again, I love Sam Darnold. I think he's a winning quarterback in the NFL, but I'm always in the favor of you take a quarterback. It's like a lottery ticket. Just because you bought one that may win doesn't mean you don't buy another. Like the more lottery tickets you get, the better chance you got at finding that guy. And I just think Justin Fields has a chance to be that guy. Also, new coaching staff, new things like that. I think it just screams new quarterback.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say is the likelihood that this pick does get traded?
4.
Okay. And on the scale of 1 to 10, the likelihood that they take Penei Sewell here instead of Justin Fields?
4 as well, probably. I think it's very, very, very likely they come out of here with either Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. I just don't like. I understand the argument for trading down and accumulating picks. I don't know what the market's going to be like. I mean, if they can get this would be the most wild deal ever. But they do something with Houston where they get the number 2, where Houston gets the number 2, Sam Darnold, number 2, like the second rounder this year, and a future first or something like that. Maybe Houston does that for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I was even thinking, both their first round picks this year and then a first.
That's right. Yeah, first rounds. Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah. So 2 firsts this year, Sam Darnold in the first next year. Then do that for Deshaun Watson. Then maybe I don't think they move out of this spot to not take a quarterback is essentially what I'm saying. I think they come away with this draft with a quarterback.
Okay. Brandon Combs asks whoever goes to the Jets should retire and try to play another sport.
I actually don't disagree with you there, man. They need so much help everywhere. But, I mean, if they trade down with somebody like, I don't know, maybe Atlanta or Philadelphia at 6, if they're in the quarterback market and really want to move up, then maybe because you still got a shot at getting somebody. But, man, there's no way I'd go into next year with Sam Darnold and a new coach kind of thing. The issue, too, is next year, let's say Sam Darnold, let's say it all pans out, and he throws for 35 touchdowns and looks decent and wins ball games, and you're 10-6 or 9-7. Well, then you got to pay him $40 million next year. He's off his rookie contract next year. So then you're going with a 1-year evaluation on a guy for a deal that you're going to be stuck in for at least 3 years, 4 years on crazy money. Or you draft a quarterback and have him on a 5-year rookie contract, and Sam Darnold's your quarterback. And if he pans out, great. You franchise him or you trade him or something like that, and you have a backup plan. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to play hugely into it.
Jesse says draft Fields and hire Urban Meyer. And I know that he hasn't named what team he's going to go to. I think he is going to go to the NFL. I thought everyone was kind of thinking Jaguars because it made sense. They got the first overall pick. But, I mean, I guess, if the Jets went with Fields, why not?
I mean, him in New York too. That'd be such a crazy good market. I mean, he'd be a god in Jacksonville because of what he did in Gainesville. But I mean, in New York, that's such a massive market for him.
And Brandon disagrees with you. He says Sam Darnold is better than any of the quarterbacks that are available at 2.
Now, yeah, of course, he's been in the league for 4 years. His ceiling is not anywhere near what those guys are going to be or could be.
The third overall pick, the Miami Dolphins, courtesy of Bill O'Brien and the Houston Texans, they get the third overall pick after going 10-6. So that's quite a nice scenario for them. Again, obviously we're not doing any trades, so New York didn't trade out. New York has decided to go quarterback. That leaves who at number 3? I feel like it's just the top 3 prospects are the top 3, and then there's a drop-off.
Yeah, I mean, this one's. I have Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle from Oregon. He is just a generational type player. He is just so good at everything that he does. He's an instant starter, instant impact. I think he'll have the same impact on the offensive side of the ball that Chase Young had on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion, as a rookie. I think he has the ability to step in and be a Pro Bowler from day one. Like, truthfully, I really do.
All right. I guess my question would be, if Penei Sewell were to go number 2, because we do think there's an outside chance that could happen. I guess what would the Dolphins trade out, do you think, or would they stay at 3 and take? I mean, again, they don't need a quarterback; they're set there.
You say that. There's a lot of talk coming out of Miami that they may take a quarterback here.
Wow, really?
A lot of talk. Yeah, I mean, the benching of Tua in 2 of these games, him not looking great. Now the offensive coordinator was fired, or stepped down, however you want to put it. And a lot of people attribute his lack of success to the offense not being designed to fit him, hence why he left. So there's signs that he may stay, but there's a lot of rumblings that they may take a Zach Wilson here or something like that. Again, it's the Kyler Murray effect, where even if you got a guy, you take another guy if you have him ranked better. So I don't know. I personally don't see it. I think Tua is a great player. I think he has all the ability to have a ton of success in this league. So I would build around him. If Penei Sewell's gone, I think Jamar Chase is the obvious choice. If they get stuck here, if they can move down, they would love to move down. But I think Jamar Chase would be a great add here.
I think that if they do decide to go quarterback, I have to imagine that the market for Tua is going to be at least a first and then a future or something.
It would have to be. I mean, he hasn't proven he isn't a starter by any means. So I'd give up a first. If I'm San Francisco or something like that, I give up 12 for Tua. Fuck it.
Brandon says Penei, or a weapon that Tua knows and trusts in Devontae Smith. I guess. I mean. Why would you take Chase over Smith?
Because he's better. Devontae Smith is great. Don't get me wrong. He's 170 pounds soaking wet right now. So I've mentioned that he's going to have to show he can add weight, or he won't succeed in the NFL. I don't think. Jamar Chase is just a better prospect all around. Just truthfully, just better at everything he does, except maybe attack downfield. Which, Devontae Smith is just obviously elite at. But, I mean, Jamar Chase is no slouch at that at all. Jamar Chase is an elite prospect. Devontae Smith, I don't even know if I'd have him over Jalen Waddle right now. I have him over Jalen Waddle because we haven't seen him all year. But if Jalen Waddle comes back for this national championship game, looks like Jalen Waddle was supposed to look like, and then goes and runs a 4.28 or a 4.3 like he's supposed to run at the combine, Jalen Waddle may very easily jump ahead of Devontae Smith.
With the 4th overall pick, we get to the Atlanta Falcons. Like I said, the top 3, I think that's the top 3. Yeah. But then we get to the Atlanta Falcons. And now here's, again, where we don't know who's going to go where. I'm curious to see, who do you have the Falcons taking at 4?
This was probably the hardest pick in the draft for me. I'm not going to lie. Atlanta has so many different holes they could fill at this spot. And this is also probably the number 1 spot for a trade up for other teams. Kind of depending on how Atlanta views Matty Ice in their situation. I don't think Atlanta's going to be drafting at number 4 very often, personally. So when you're here this early and you've got a chance to do it, I take a quarterback. I've got Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State. Now that the season's over, I think this is the rise of Trey Lance. He is going to wow in the offseason. I mean, this kid is going to look so good in shorts and a T-shirt. He's going to throw the ball insanely well at his pro day. The ball jumps out of his hands. He looks impressive. You're going to have to go with your tape evals on him as to whether you think he can succeed at the next level, because from this process on, he's going to look like the number 1 player, in my opinion. He's going to run a stupid 40 time. He's going to test extremely well. It's his time to shine, I think, and I think Atlanta gets wowed.
See, I think that when I was looking at the Atlanta Falcons and what their biggest needs are, I feel like obviously quarterback's not their biggest need. They still have Matt Ice under contract for 3 more years or something like that, and they can't really even trade because his dead cap's so high right now. But I think secondary is a huge need for theirs, but I guess you would say that there's probably not a secondary player that you would take it for at this point.
Patrick Surtain's really, really, really good. He's shown extremely good ball skills. He's my number one corner by far. Not by far, but right now by far, because Caleb Fairley hasn't played all year. He has a chance to catch him, but I wouldn't take Patrick Surtain at 4. Personally, if I'm Atlanta, I move back. San Francisco is going to want to trade up. New England's going to want to trade up. Houston may want to deal. If they end up dealing Deshaun and then get a glutton of first-round picks, they may want to move up. There's going to be a team that wants to move up to number 4 here for Zach Wilson or Trey Lance, in my opinion. And I think Atlanta, if they're not sold on getting a quarterback, then they should move back. But I would take Trey Lance here. He's the perfect candidate in this spot too. Sit him behind Matty Ice for a year or two, and then play him because then he can develop. So that's kind of where I would go.
Brandon does say, no, leave Trey Lance alone for the Bears pick. Brandon, I don't think you're going to like Sully's Bears pick, but we'll get
I honestly would love it, but I don't think you're going to like it. Yeah.
Jesse says, love the video packages. Thanks, Jesse. Worked really hard at them.
Truthfully, Wayne, you killed it. This draft looks amazing.
My question was, why Lance over Zach Wilson?
Like I said, I just think Trey Lance is going to dominate the offseason process. I really do. I mean, I think he's going to wow in interview rooms. You're going to watch him in shorts and a T-shirt, and you're going to say, holy shit, this guy looks good. Like, I mean, he does. He looks impressive. He truly does. I mean, even when you watch him on tape, the ball jumps off his hand. Like, no other prospect has it. But it's obviously reading the game and going to second reads and third reads and things like that and trying to get him to not just take off first play and things like that. And that's why I think he takes time to develop. But I think somebody's just going to get wowed by his athletic ability.
We have 3 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks, and now we get to 5. Cincinnati took a quarterback number 1 overall last year. He's not going to play at all in 2021, probably. If he does, it'll probably be the last 2 games, but even then I wouldn't play him because the risk of him getting hurt again. Mm-hmm. So they need a quarterback, but only temporarily. So they won't address that in the draft. What do you think they're going to do in the draft?
I think they go Jamar Chase, the wide receiver from LSU. He is just I mean, when we talk about like blue chip generational prospects, I think he is that at wide receiver. He's one of the more special wide receiver talents we've seen in a very long time. And then obviously being able to pair him up with Joe Burrow is a plus. I mean, you've got guys who set historic seasons, and they have familiarity already. So that's a huge plus for them. So I think this is a lock pick, honestly.
See, well, and it's funny because you call it a lock pick. This was the first one when I was doing these that I had an issue with in terms of the picks because I'm looking at it and I'm like, all right, well, they've already got, Tyler Boyd and, T. Higgins looks really well. I'm thinking their biggest issue is that before he got hurt, Burrow was sacked like 80 times or something like that. They have Jonah Williams on the offensive line and nobody else. I think their next best player is like a 3rd, 4th round pick. Mm-hmm. So why not address the offensive line here at the 5th pick?
Historically, the offensive line will not help you. As a rookie player, it's just very rarely do rookie offensive linemen turn out to have an actual impact. So in their first year, that is. So with that being said, I'd go after somebody as a veteran. If I'm Cincinnati, I go after a Trent Williams who's going to get let go by San Francisco. Jake Matthews will more than likely be a cap hit in Atlanta. Brandon Scherf's going to be on the market. Joe Tooney's going to be on the market. I would spend my money that way on a veteran offensive line and build that way than I would take a Christian Darrisaw, who is a good prospect in his own right, but he's not a top 10 prospect in my opinion in like pure rankings wise. Like I don't have him ranked in my top 10 players. Meanwhile, I have Jamar Chase as an elite blue chip prospect and drafting Jamar Chase makes T. Higgins better. It makes Tyler Boyd better. It allows you to then go 3 deep where everyone is 3 deep now, at wide receiver. It makes T. Higgins now your number 2 and Tyler Boyd your number 3, which is one of the more talented wide receiver groups in the league when you think about it. So I think it's addition by addition, kind of thing like that.
Okay. Well, I know you said that it does take time for these offensive linemen to adapt to the NFL, but I also think, like I said, you're not going to get Burrow back until 2022 anyways. So, I mean, why not take an offensive lineman here, let him develop for a year, and then you've got him protecting your franchise player.
Again, I don't. It's more. I think it's more. There's not a player that meets the value at that point. I don't see Christian Darrisaw as a top 10 tackle. I just don't. I think he may go top 10 because that's where left tackles go, but I don't personally have him as that player. So it would be extremely tough. You know, I know Rashawn Slater is flying up boards right now. Alex Leatherwood just won the Outland Trophy. You know, there's plenty of guys, but at 5, I personally don't see it.
And Jesse says he would like the chemistry of Burrow and Chase since they obviously played together at LSU. So.
Yeah, it's kind of a perfect pairing, honestly. Like it makes a ton of sense.
At number 6, the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to see a few NFC East teams here in the top half of the draft. But yeah, number 6, we got the Eagles. Carson Wentz obviously could be on his way out. There's a lot of talk about that. He wants to be out. Jalen Hurts looks like he's going to probably compete for the starting job with Wentz. But obviously, I don't think quarterback is a need here, even though I have seen some mock drafts where they've taken a quarterback, which is mind-boggling to me. But who would you say, if the Philadelphia Eagles are stuck at 6, you know, where would they need to address?
To take a quarterback here would just be insane to me, honestly. And I'm in the I've said this 1,000 times. You buy as many lottery tickets as you can. But, man, that's a lot of capital you're investing into this position that's still on your roster that won't work out if they take a Zach Wilson here. I mean, I'm going Devontae Smith, the wide receiver from Alabama. The Eagles are starving for talent at wide receiver. I mean, maybe these quarterbacks can't succeed because they're throwing to Greg Ward and fucking like – what was the other guy's name? I don't even know his name. The one guy who Fulgham, I think it was Travis Fulgham. Like, who are these guys? Like, seriously, I get him some elite talent. Devontae Smith has shown it all year. He can just get open. Plain and simple, the guy's savvy. He's not the biggest guy. I'll knock him for that all day. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the cleanest route runner. I mean, on a team with Amari Cooper. On a team with Amari Cooper, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith. He was the 4th worst guy on that team. You know what I mean? When Tua had all those guys. Or was it Calvin Ridley? Honestly, I can't remember. It doesn't matter at this point. Jerry Jeudy, that was it. Thank you, Jerry Jeudy. You know, with all these guys who are all first-round talents, Devontae Smith was the worst on that team. You know, and was the worst prospect out of that. Now he's shown he can play much better, but I mean, that's just insane to think about.
This is actually the first pick where I looked at it. I was like, oh, I don't really have a problem with this. I mean, they need a wide receiver. That's like you said, they're the wide receiver court. And I like Ward and I do like Fulgham. I think they're great 3rd and 4th wide receivers. You know, but they need a number 1 receiver.
They need a number 1 and a number 2, honestly. Quite truthfully. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to come down to Devontae Smith. I know Micah Parsons is somebody that Philadelphia apparently loves, the all-purpose linebacker. They need a linebacker really bad. And then obviously Zach Wilson is just, I mean, he's arguably the number 2 overall player in this class. And so, you know, on a lot of boards he is. So, I mean, it'd be hard to pass him, but I couldn't take another quarterback here.
Jesse asks, does Smith compare to Deshaun Jackson?
Yes. I think he can do more of the dirty work, but that's an excellent comp. I really do. And I don't. What's funny is I don't think he'll have the timed breakaway speed, but I mean, you watch him on tape and he's clearly can fly. So I do think he is that downfield threat. I do think he can be that for Philadelphia.
And Brandon asks, Wentz is part of the quarterback carousel this season. Wentz, Jameis, Trubisky, Watson, Ryan, and if Packers lose this week before the Super Bowl, even Aaron Rodgers on them? I don't think so.
God, Brandon.
And of course,
has arguably his best season ever. Posts one of the best quarterback ratings of all time this season. I think it's number 3 of all time, and they're going to ship him out. Yeah, he's done. Let's get Jordan Love in there, guys.
Brandon also just said that he thinks that Devontae Smith will be better than Deshaun Jackson.
I do too. I definitely think he will be better. The similarities are there. I didn't mean to flick you off. I was just rubbing my nose.
Oh, no, it's fine. The 7th overall pick, the Detroit Lions. Not a great season for them. Matt Patricia's gone now, so they've got to basically retool everything and figure out how to win in that division. I feel like they have some pieces. I like Kenny Galladay. I like, the running backs this reason. Not not the child beater, but I like the
DeAndre Swift is good. Kerryon Johnson's good. Yeah.
But I guess if you're the Lions, you got the 7th overall pick. You got to do something. And what are you doing?
Zach Wilson, lock, ship it. If he's there at 7, they better run to the podium and select Zach Wilson. This kid's good, man. I think he's really, really, really talented. The ball jumps out of his hands. He's crazy good, accurate. I mean, that's a stupid throw. He's like it's insanely talented throw right there. He's just crazy good. I want to see more. It's BYU, and he's never playing in Alabama, kind of thing like that. So obviously, but that kind of throw right there, not a lot of college quarterbacks can make. He's on the far left hash. He's throwing all the way to the other pylon in between two guys. That's a throw. Most quarterbacks can't make. So when you see that kind of throw, that's the kind of stuff that you're like, wow.
Now, I really like this pick for the Lions because they do have Stafford there already. Stafford's probably going to be there for another year or so, and it gives him time to kind of come up and take over the reins. I guess the question is, with Zach Wilson, some people feel like he might have a little bit of Johnny Manziel in him in the sense that, his parents are rich, he's a rich kid, he kind of has this entitlement, like I'm better than everybody else kind of attitude.
Yeah, truthfully, I haven't heard anything like that. You would think a guy coming from Brigham Young would be a little grounded and with all the humanities work they do and things like that. They're forced to do missions and things like that. So you would think he'd be a little humble. I personally, at this point, I don't know. I haven't done my deep into his background and kind of the way he is as a teammate and things like that. This is going strictly on a prospect grade. I have him ahead of Trey Lance as a prospect. I have him biting the toes and heels of Justin Fields. So I like Zach Wilson a lot, if I'm being honest.
Okay. And I do think he's a good fit, like I said, in that Detroit system, down the road.
And being able to sit is the best thing ever for Zach Wilson and a lot of these guys coming out, honestly.
At number 8, the Carolina Panthers. Last year they took Derek Brown for the defense, and it seemed to work well. The defense was pretty solid, 15th or 16th in the league this year. Their offense really struggled. They need some sort of fix here because, Teddy Bridgewater seems to not be able to get it done on his own. Again, what are they going to do at 8?
I struggled with this pick a lot, and it's truthfully the only reason I struggled is because of what they did last year. Going all defense last year truthfully makes me think they're going to go all offense this year. And I really, really, really wanted to take Kyle Pitts here. I didn't. I went Micah Parsons, the linebacker from Penn State. The other trend is Matt Rule wants to set that defense up to succeed, and I think he knows that's how a young football team succeeds. Micah Parsons is a centerpiece, cornerstone. He's a guy that's going to be your quarterback. He's on defense. He's going to call your plays. He's going to be your captain. He's going to do this. He's going to line up on the line and rush the passer if he needs to. He's going to play off ball if he needs to. He's going to cover tight ends, cover running backs. He's everything they've missed since they lost Luke Kuechly.
Yeah, and I think my question, I guess, was looking at their secondary. They've got Rasul Douglas in the secondary, Dante Jackson. It seems like corner would be a bigger need. I understand that talent-wise, Micah Parsons is a bigger talent than any of the corners on the board, but it seems like corner definitely is a bigger need than linebacker.
I agree. Patrick Surtain will get play here at this pick, and I don't think the gap is huge between Micah Parsons and Patrick Surtain as a prospect, especially considering positional value. But because a cornerback is going to get you more wins per AV than a off-ball coverage linebacker will. At the same time, it's what Micah Parsons brings. He will be the quarterback to that defense. He will be the guy that sets everything for that young defense, and I think that's something that's going to be really difficult for Matt Rule to pass on.
Yeah, and again, I'm sorry, I'm going through these comments to try to make sure I get the comments up, but there's just an argument going on between two people in the comments. So,
damn, how do I see these? Oh, there we go.
Number 9, Denver Broncos. Obviously, this team really didn't do well this year. They went out, they got the running back, Melvin Gordon. They have Lindsey already. They drafted Jerry Jeudy, who, like you said, has just been making people look stupid in running his routes. So offensively, they seem to be pretty solid, with the exception of quarterback. I'm not sure what their biggest need is in defense, but again, you've got the 9th pick. You've got to address some area of the team.
this is where Patrick Surtain stops his fall, in my opinion. I've got them going Patrick Surtain, the quarterback from Alabama, a cornerback from Alabama. Denver's probably going to lose A.J. Bowie, and then they need help anyway at the cornerback position. Patrick Surtain has honestly had one of the best seasons I've ever graded as a cornerback. I was hard pressed to find things he did poorly. I mean, he will come up and make hits, and like you saw, and make tackles. He's insanely good at mirroring wide receivers. I mean, it's scary good how he's able to stay in a receiver's hip pocket. His dad was obviously a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro corner for Miami, and it truthfully looks like the apple has not fallen far from the tree. He looks like he's born to play the position.
So my question would be this with this pick, because I feel like I said, their offense is really set up, except for the quarterback position. I think Drew Lock is not the answer. He does not look good. So the question is two-part. One, if Zach Wilson is there at 9, do the Broncos take him? And two, if he's not there, are the remaining quarterbacks just not good enough to take in the top 10?
Yeah, so everybody that was screaming at Philadelphia for tanking the game, so the Giants wouldn't get in, they actually tanked, in my opinion, so they could jump the Panthers because they were at 9 behind. If they win that game, they're at 9, and everybody moves up one ahead of them. Their loss moves them ahead of these teams that could need a quarterback. That's where all the quarterback hoopla has come from out of Philadelphia, is you lose that game to move up so you're in play for a quarterback. I don't think that would happen in Philadelphia, but I think Denver is a true player in moving up in this draft. If Zach Wilson is sitting there, I think Denver at 5 and 6 and things like that, and 4, I think Denver's going to try to get up there. I really do. I think I think they need a player there. They have everything around, I think, to work. I think they need if you put Zach Wilson in that offense, I think that's a scary good football team in 3 years.
But it's too high, you think, to take,
Mac Jones. I wouldn't touch Mac Jones in the top 15. I wouldn't touch Kyle Trask in the top 15. I wouldn't touch Kyle Trask probably in the first round, but he's going to go in the first round. Mac Jones, I don't know. The guy has so much talent around him that, yes, he's producing and it looks good, but, man, I don't know if I see it. That's all. I just don't know if I see it out of him.
The 10th pick, the Dallas Cowboys, who I had predicted to go 14-2, whatever it was, they end up just one of those horrible NFC East teams. And again, a team that seems really well put together. They have a lot of pieces. Obviously, Dak getting hurt is a huge, huge hit. He could come back next year. He might not. There's talk. Should they trade for a quarterback? Should they give him the $40 million a year he's asking for? But first things first, they've got to address an area in the draft. Like I said, they don't have a lot of holes.
Dak and Deshaun Watson need to flip spots, in my opinion. I think that is the ability. I think that has the most traction to be the best trade. I think they moved Dak and 10 for Deshaun. And I think that's let's clean. Let's both get out of there. You don't got to give up a ton. You want to get out of the Dak situation anyway. I wouldn't mind paying Deshaun Watson $40 million a year at all. I feel much better paying Deshaun Watson $40 million than I do Dak Prescott. So that's what I would do if I was the Cowboys. With their pick, they have to address that secondary. I mean, they have to. It's bad. It's bad. And Caleb Farley, I think it's Fairley. I think is going to test out the wazoo at the combine. He's a big kid. He's 6'2". He's going to run a 4.3. He's got special athletic ability, especially for that position. He's long. He has good ball skills. I would have loved to see him play this year, but I mean, again, now that the offseason's starting, it's where he's going to shine. So.
Yeah, see, I looked at it and I said, like I said, they don't have a lot of holes. I'm looking at their defense, and obviously they got Trevon Diggs last year for their secondary. They've got,
awful, by the way.
Yeah, but he's still a decent.
I know that. I'm just saying he's not a fix by any means.
They've got, Jalen Smith, Aldon Smith, Vander Esch, DeMarcus Lawrence. So really, if you just fill this spot, I mean, it seems like a perfect. Like there's one hole. I mean, then you have him and Diggs. You've got all these linebackers. You got the defensive line. The defense looks solid. Obviously, the offense looks solid. It's just too bad they couldn't draft a coach at number 10.
Yeah, I agree. They need a fit there. I think they need some other pieces, obviously, but yeah, I mean, they need to. Cornerback is such a high priority position in this league now. I mean, if you don't have a true number one, you're in a lot of trouble. So, I think that's very important, and I think Caleb Fairley has a shot to be that, and then Trevon Diggs can be your 2, which is, I think, a better spot for him. I don't think he has the ability to be a 1.
Brandon says, wow, Deshaun in Dallas, that would be so good.
Yeah, no, that's one that I haven't seen kicked around a lot. And personally, I think if I'm Dallas and if I'm Houston also, I think that's what makes both teams the happiest. Because then Houston gets a quarterback that, nobody thinks Dak can't play football. So he gets a Pro Bowl level quarterback for a Pro Bowl level quarterback. And I think Dallas gets a quarterback that they feel is much more apt to succeed in Deshaun Watson.
At 11, the New York Giants, like I said, it's just basically the NFC East and a couple other teams in the top half of the draft. The New York Giants, again, a lot of holes. Saquon Barkley gets hurt. That obviously hurts. I'm not a huge Daniel Jones fan. I think you like him more than I do. I'm just not a huge fan. But I do love Saquon Barkley if he's healthy, and it's now 2 or 3 seasons in a row that he's been hurt. So he comes back. I don't think that they're going to draft a running back. But I guess what would they address? Because they do seem to be just a really bad team that is going to be really bad no matter who they pick.
I've got him going Kwity Paye, the edge defender from Michigan. I've mentioned this now probably a couple times on the show. Edge talent is either found in the first round of the draft or it's found in free agency. They need edge talent bad. Bad. It's probably their number one need if outside a quarterback. Kwity Paye put more together this year than he had shown in previous years. Before he was just an athletic guy. This year he's shown he can actually play the position, not just be an athletic freak at the position. But the guy's going to test off the charts. Honestly, Atlanta may take him at 4 if they don't move down and don't want a quarterback. Detroit may take him at 7 if all the quarterbacks are gone. He's got a shot to go much higher than this. I just couldn't find a spot for him in the top 10.
All right. It's a good fit. Like I said, the Giants have a lot of holes. So, we talk about the best player available. If you're the Giants, you just take whoever the best player available is, and then you're saying that he's the best player available because he is a top 5 talent, but he's just dropping to 11 here. Yeah,
Jalen Waddle's going to get a lot of look here. They've got nothing at wide receiver 2. They're starting Darius Slayton, Golden Tate. It's tough for Daniel Jones to succeed in that. So, I expect Jalen Waddle to show up and run a special number. So he could obviously be in play for this pick. The way I draft, I'm taking an edge because you don't find edge talent. So.
The San Francisco 49ers are drafting 12th. I know there was some talk in other mock drafts, have them taking a quarterback. Whether they do or not, I just love the idea of Jimmy G coming back to New England. So I hope something happens that pushes that to happen. But they seem like, again, they've got tools. They're a rushing first team. And wide receiver-wise with Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, they've got Kittle. They don't really need, wide receiver help. So what would they do?
I was shocked last year they didn't take to address the secondary. And so I'd be shocked if they didn't go J.C. Horn, cornerback from South Carolina with this pick. He finished the season extremely strong, shot up boards, big physical guy. I think he's moved ahead. Shaun Wade had a bad couple games, the last games, and I think he's going to drop. Darion Kendrick didn't have a great game against Ohio State, and then Tyson Campbell really just needs to put it together more than anything, where J.C. Horn has it together, I think. It's special to have a season like he did in the SEC. So, yeah. He also is a perfect scheme fit. He fits that defensive scheme he was bred for it. So,
and it's another pick that, again, I really like because of how few holes there are. When you look at that defense with Kinlaw and Armstead, and Bosa's going to come back. And then over the top, they got Jimmy Ward, who I think is a really great safety. And then just to add another great corner, really, really good fit for the 49ers.
And Richard Sherman's not going to play at an elite level for much longer. Let's be real. He's not even playing at an elite level now. So they need somebody bad. This is a spot, too, where I'm going to say it probably 30 times in this draft. Jimmy G, 12, and next year's 1. for Deshaun, I think, gets it done. So, there's a lot of options. So they're also, I think, the biggest team in play to move up for a quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Brandon does say, versus our previous with the Giants, he says that it's tough for Danny Dimes to succeed when the 20-yard line tackles you.
I think we were all pretty impressed with Danny Dimes' athleticism there, though.
They said it was his top speed was like second in the league.
Second fastest in the entire season all year. Yeah.
The Los Angeles Chargers had quite the emergence of their rookie quarterback, who you didn't like going into the draft, Justin Herbert, and who I had mentioned might be the best rookie quarterback in the history of the NFL, which you disagree with. But we have the Chargers picking him. We know they're not taking quarterback. Are they going to get him some help, or do they need to address other areas?
Yeah, I think they've got to protect Justin Herbert at this point. Christian Darrisaw, the offensive tackle from Virginia, has had one of the better seasons in a long time. Virginia Tech, my apologies. That's my mislip. He's got some pretty flawless tape. He put some really special tape together this year, and it's hard to ignore. His base is just really, really good. The guy's in a position to make the best block at all times, essentially.
And I think it's a great pick as well because of the fact that Justin Herbert is your future now. I mean, he's the guy. You got to protect him. So obviously when you have your quarterback set, next is left tackle. It seems like the second most important position on the team once you have your quarterback. So definitely no issues with this pick. Would there be any consideration to like somebody like Cosme, or what puts Darrisaw ahead of him?
There will. Like I said, there's a lot. Rashawn Slater, Rashawn Slater can play every position on the offensive line. He can play center. He can play left guard, right guard, left tackle. He's absolutely had an insanely good season this year. I actually think he was the highest graded offensive tackle this year in college football. So he's going to get a look. It's going to come down to preference at this point. I think Christian Darrisaw is the safer of the picks. More so just because the guy's always in the right spot. Always.
Brandon says that Justin Herbert was the best quarterback out of last year's draft. Well, he had the best season, I guess, of any of the quarterbacks last year's draft.
I think in most circles, everyone on the planet would still take Joe Burrow, but yeah, Justin Herbert did play the best out of last year's draft. And again, that's only, I think, because Joe Burrow got hurt. We don't know what Joe Burrow would have done the last couple games.
At number 14, the Minnesota Vikings, the NFC North, like another, not as bad as the NFC East, but still having its issues. I guess what do they address? They've got, just again, I feel like so many things to address in that team. I don't feel like it's a very solid team.
This is probably the easiest pick of the draft, honestly. Outside of Trevor Lawrence, Gregory Rousseau, edge defender from Miami. He's arguably the number one edge. You're going to get a lot of people that have Kwity Paye. You're going to get a lot of people that have Gregory Rousseau. Greg Rousseau's got a shot to go in the top 10. They lost Danielle Hunter last year to injury, and he wants, and he's going to, come back hopefully this year. Everson Griffin was gone. They need an edge rusher bad. I mean, bad. That's how this team succeeds. And I think Gregory Rousseau is going to be that guy for them.
Yeah. I was curious, what about quarterback? I mean, it seems like, Kirk Cousins is on the outs with them. I mean, why not bring in somebody to fill that void, or you think just none of the quarterbacks left would be worth it?
I mean, I don't think the reason they lost was because of Kirk Cousins. I don't think a lot of those football games they lost was because of Kirk Cousins. That defense is atrociously bad. I think they need a lot of help in a lot of spots. I mean, name me 12 better quarterbacks than Kirk Cousins. Truthfully, don't get me wrong. I don't like Kirk Cousins. I don't think he is the answer. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't think Mac Jones is, and I'd rather build my team around what I have, and then maybe, we sneak into the playoffs, something works out. I think Kirk Cousins has the ability to win a stretch of games in a division. So,
all right. The next picks is the one that Jesse and I are going to be very excited for. The New England Patriots are selecting at 15. A horrible season. They missed the playoffs for the first time, 10, 11 years, whatever it was. They have not been.
20, isn't it?
No, they missed it with Matt Castle at quarterback.
Oh, that's right. Even though you guys went 11-5, you missed that?
Yep.
Oh, wow, that's wild.
So the Patriots have to pick. They've got to fill some needs. Obviously, the top quarterback names are off the board. I honestly don't think Bill Belichick would take a quarterback anyways in the first round. It just doesn't seem his style. But I guess, yeah, who do you have the Patriots taking? And then I'll tell you why I don't like it.
We have from Alabama, wide receiver Jalen Waddle. I just think at this point, you guys have nothing at wide receiver. It's terrible, and you need to find somebody, some talent. I do think you find a quarterback through free agency or through oh my God, what a special catch. Or another way, like free agency, a trade, something like that. I don't think they address the quarterback position through Mac Jones. I think that would be a terrible pick, honestly. I think Jalen Waddle's special. I really do. So
here's why I don't like it I don't like it because I don't think it's realistic in the sense that Bill Belichick took N'Keal Harry 2 years ago in the first round. It didn't work out. When you get food poisoning from a restaurant, you don't go back to the same restaurant hoping you get a better dish. And Bill Belichick has been hesitant his entire NFL GM career of taking wide receivers in the first round. In fact, N'Keal Harry was the first one he ever did. So it didn't work out for him. So that's why I think Belichick has always been a guy who either trades out of the first round or he'll take the dirty players in the first round. Especially with the fact that you might be losing Joe Thuney, it looks like. Why wouldn't they go Wyatt Davis here?
They very well could. I don't have Wyatt Davis near as the prospect as I do Jalen Waddle. And again, it's also like I draft in the first round, especially. I like to draft positional value. So I can get an offensive guard that will give me what Joe Thuney did in the third round and fourth round, like when I drafted Joe Thuney. I can hit those guys more often than I'm going to get a player that's as special as Jalen Waddle. Now, I understand that's not necessarily how New England thinks. This isn't exactly what I think New England would do. This is what I would do in this spot, a little bit of both kind of thing. I'm going to take a wide receiver over an offensive guard every day of the week.
Okay. Now, Brandon had asked, he said, any way the Patriots don't trade this pick? And I mean, it's 50-50 probably.
It really is. I mean, it's most likely they trade this pick. I mean, I would assume they move down. Somebody's going to want Mac Jones. Somebody's going to want Kyle Trask. Somebody's going to want Jalen Waddle, honestly, at this point, I think. Especially, again, I expect him to run in the 4.2s, low 4.3s. So, I mean, somebody's going to want to move up. So.
And then Brandon had said Najee Harris to New England, which obviously would never happen because Devin Harris looks like he's emerging, and they have Sony Michel already, so they wouldn't take a running back in the first round. I just wanted to see you squirm when you read that.
Running back at 15 is one of the worst picks of all time.
Well, my second issue with it is knowing that New England. I agree. New England needs receivers. They need guys who can catch the football. That said, why would they take Waddle here when Kyle Pitts is still sitting there, who I think is a top 10 talent? And knowing how New England uses tight ends, like this is a dream come true if he's still there.
At this point, then it's how many tight ends are you carrying on that roster? And I know he's not a tight end per se, but you just spent 2 second rounders, and now you're investing another first rounder in the position. Granted, I agree. I think Kyle Pitts is stupid, insanely talented, and trust me, I thought long and hard about it. You have nothing at wide receiver. I mean, nothing. N'Keal Harry had 300 yards this year. I mean, and I get that like Cam Newton isn't a world beater and he's not throwing the ball, and even when N'Keal Harry's open, he's not getting the ball. But whoever comes in is gonna need some talent, and Jalen Waddle, I think, is the biggest impact player you can take at 15. Yeah. Especially for a team that like is expected to win and things like you're not rebuilding. So, Jalen Waddle's an instant impact player in my opinion.
The Arizona Cardinals draft at 16. Obviously, they got Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, a high-powered offense, that spread offense that Kingsbury likes to run. Last year they took Isaiah Simmons, again, kind of jack of all trades, linebacker / safety / corner, who had an okay season, didn't really set the world on fire. So definitely some areas that they need to address.
Their defense again was the Achilles heel. This one is a struggle for me because honestly, they have for a team that's so good, they have so many needs. Like they need a corner bad. Patrick Peterson's not going to play decent any much longer. I think they need offensive line help bad. With that being said, Kyle Pitts in this offense, tight end from Florida, is my pick. He's just. I mean, I have him, I think, as my 7th best player overall, I think it is. Yeah, my 7th best player overall. To be fair, I have Jalen Waddle at 6. So, and I mean, in that offense with what Cliff Kingsbury does and Kyler Murray and Larry Fitzgerald leaving, I think Kyle Pitts is a slash receiver, and especially the Larry Fitzgerald type. He's going to be their slot kind of crosser, sit in those zone holes, attack the middle of the field kind of thing. I mean, I think it's going to be really hard for Cliff Kingsbury to pass that.
First of all, I'm going to say, you son of a bitch. It's like, yeah, New England's going to take this guy and pass on the tight end, which would be like a dream come true for them.
Again, I have Jalen Waddle as the 6th overall prospect, and Kyle Pitts is the 7th. I also think a wide receiver is a bigger instant impact position, but I get it. Trust me, I get it. I thought long and hard. These picks were flipped. Like, I had Jalen Waddle going to Arizona and Kyle Pitts, and I flipped him. So.
Okay. In my mind, that's how it'll go. Now, what do you think about Todd McShay having Justin Fields at number 15 to the Patriots? I mean, what are the chances that he drops that far?
I mean, in the draft, I'm pretty sure he says like the Patriots would have to move up in his explanation.
Well, he's got it at 15. I mean,
no, I know, but he has a whole explanation about the pick that insiders like me can read. And in it, he describes Justin Fields won't drop this far. And New England would probably have to move up to get him, but he doesn't do trades like I do, so he has Justin Fields dropping. That would obviously be, I think, a dream scenario for Bill. I think Justin Fields has the head to play in Bill's system, and obviously the athletic ability that, he doesn't covet, but he can get, that Cam Newton-esque ability without the Cam Newton running. So
he likes versatile players, guys who do a lot of things.
Exactly. And that is Justin Fields, but I don't think there's any way he falls to – I don't think there's any way he falls to 5. So
Brandon says they need so much in the offensive line in New England. So we're still there.
Offensive side, but yeah, I agree. They do. They need a lot. They need 2 receivers, a tight – like they need a lot.
And then Jesse says, love Waddle, would prefer Pitts. Me too. Either would be great additions.
Again, it's Jalen Waddle, I'm telling you, is special. If he'd have played this whole year, it's not nobody, but I don't even think people would be talking about Devontae Smith in the top 10. I'm telling you, Jalen Waddle's special. He's special.
At 17, the Las Vegas Raiders, they end up, missing the playoffs, 8-8. And, or did they make the playoffs? No, they missed it, right?
They missed it. That's why they're 17.
Okay, so they're 8-8.
Any team 19 and on is in the playoffs.
I love Josh Jacobs. I think is a great player. I like Derek Carr. I know I've talked about him ad nauseum. That I really love his accuracy. He doesn't throw a great deep ball. He doesn't have a huge arm, but he's very accurate. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So I think he's a guy who, I guess, like you said, if at worst case scenario, that's what Trevor Lawrence would be. So they don't need any sort of quarterback help. I don't know. Where do they need help? What is their big weakness right now?
I mean, big defense bad. I've got him going Jeremiah Owusu-Kamara, the linebacker hybrid from Notre Dame. This kid is just built for today's game, and he's the exact player that Daniel Jeremiah loves. He's a captain. He's a multiple year starter. He's a versatile. I mean, look at this play. I saw this highlight, and before the thing you showed me this, and this is one of the best highlight tapes to exactly explain how great a player is. You saw him read and rush the passer. You saw him read and attack the running back in the backfield. You saw him cover and turn his hips and make an insane interception. Then you saw him read and attack the backfield and essentially just steal the ball away from the running back. I mean, this kid is a born playmaker. He's one of my favorite prospects in the entire draft.
Well, and I think we talked about him when we did your top prospects in one episode, and some of the reports I read about him was that he doesn't have top-end speed, but he looks like he's playing 100 miles per hour out there.
Yeah, I don't know what he's going to test. I truthfully don't. I think he's going to run in sub 4.5s or 4.5 or sub, which, I mean, for a linebacker, that's all you're looking for. You watch the tape, you see this guy has football speed, though. His hips are just, I mean, they're defensive back hips on a linebacker, and that's something you just don't see. I mean, you just don't see it in players. And with the way the coverage is today, where you're running nickel most of the time, and he's your nickel backer at this point, I mean, that's an advantage that most teams can't have, and that Las Vegas will have.
And I really like the pick because I do think that Raiders fans are going to love the way that he plays. It's a nonstop motor. Like whistle to whistle, he's going.
That's what I mean. I'm telling you, he is a Daniel Jeremiah player. He's a hard-nosed, gritty player. He wants to play football, and that's what Daniel Jeremiah wants.
At number 18, actually, before we get to the Dolphins pick, let me just check. We got a couple comments. Let's see. Brandon says, you can make up speed with ball hawk ability. For sure.
His instincts are insanely good. Yeah. And
Brandon also says, and that's what this kid does. I guess, is make up for – but he doesn't even need to make up for speed. I think he has speed.
Yeah.
The Miami Dolphins pick at 18. This is their actual pick. So they have 2 picks in the top 20, which is how lucky for them. Again, a team that went 10-6 has 2 picks in the top 20 to rebuild. Now, in the first round, you had them taking Penei Sewell, or the first pick, at number 3 overall. Where do they go at 18? I guess.
I don't know if a lot of Dolphins fans are going to like this. I got him taking Rashawn Slater, the versatile offensive lineman out of Northwestern. And I understand that's investing a lot along the offensive line, especially considering that they took 2 players in the second round last year. But I don't know. I mean, this is your future, and these are the things you need to invest in my opinion. And if you take Penei Sewell, the gentleman they took last year in the first round out of USC, it's just slipping my mind. God, it's blowing my – give me 1 second. It's pissing me off that I can't remember it.
Well, plus they also have Ted Karras, and they have Eric Flowers there too.
Austin Jackson. My apologies.
Austin Jackson. Yeah.
Austin Jackson, the offensive tackle out of Southern Cal, who, we knew was going to be a project. He was one of the youngest prospects coming out of the draft. Not only that, they took Robert Hunt very early. The only thing is Robert Hunt didn't pan out. He didn't look good at all. Austin Jackson didn't look good at all. I understand you got to give these guys time to develop, but also you need people to protect Tua. You do. You just do. And I think Rashawn Slater, I mean, I was late to the Rashawn Slater group because I'm not studying a ton of Northwestern tape. His name is flying up boards right now, and he's going in the top 15 of all these drafts. I mean, his tape is just sound and good, and he has multiple years of solid grading and improved grading every year, which is what you look for. So I think and he's so versatile. Like I said, he can play every spot. So I think it'd be extremely tough for them to pass. I truly do. I know they have a lot of other needs, but for me, it's best player available that also fits a need.
Now, for me, I thought looking at their roster, again, especially if they address with Penei Sewell, which I think you just don't pass there at 3. Yeah. Looking at the roster, I thought, okay, they're pretty set in the offensive line. Obviously, quarterback, I feel like they're set. They have good receivers. You could go running back here, but what I really like is they have those 2 stud cornerbacks. Mm-hmm. And I thought a perfect fit for Miami would be Trevon Moehrig from TCU to be that over-the-top safety.
I actually don't dislike that pick at all. And especially me, I'm one of the biggest Trevor Moehrig fans there is on the planet. I would take him in a second. I love him. I truly do love his game. Again, it's more about player value and positional need. I don't think offensive line you're ever really set. You know what I mean? Like Ted Karras. Like I understand he's a solid player, but I mean if you can get a better player in here, Robert Hunt isn't going to be their starter if you can get a better player in and things like that. And also more injuries happen on the offensive line more than anything else. You need the depth for these guys. So,
and Brandon says, you ever figure out what happened with our ghost top 5 from the Air Force? Well,
I still haven't. I have no idea. He's not on any boards. I can't find him at all. I mean, this is my time right now. I'm looking at every mock draft that anybody puts out, and I haven't seen his name once. It's wild. This guy, he must have. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. He may have died. Like, yeah, like I'm not even trying to be a smartass. Like the fact that I can't find anything about why he just disappeared as a prospect is blowing my mind.
Now, the Chicago Bears, Brandon, pick at 19.
Go, Brandon.
And obviously they've got a lot of needs. One of them, I'm sure he'll tell you, is quarterback. So who are they taking with the 19th overall pick?
19th overall pick, the Chicago Bears are taken from Alabama, Outland Trophy winner Alex Leatherwood. I don't care who plays quarterback. You can't continue to throw out the offensive line they're putting out there. It's just bad. It really is bad. It's tough for any quarterback to succeed when you have no time. And I'm always going to be a fan of setting up what's in front of the quarterback first. I'm a big fan of Alex Leatherwood in his game. I think he's a mauler in the run game, and he can pass protect. He can mirror like no other. So, yeah, I kind of figured you weren't going to like this one. But I really do, man. I mean, I don't think like you throw Mac Jones or Kyle Trask in behind this offensive line, and you're going to get a 2-14 ball club. You're going to get, I just really think you are. I don't think the other pick I really considered was Rashad Bateman. Because I don't think Allen Robinson's there next year either. So,
and he says, of course, I liked you until 5 seconds ago. Yeah, I mean, that was my thing too. When I saw these picks when you were sending them over, I said, I just don't feel like there's any way the Bears pass on a quarterback here. I feel like I don't care if it's Trask. I don't care if it's. I mean, unless you're thinking that they address it in the free agent market, but there's no way they go into next season with Nick Foles as their starter, and they're not going to pay Trubisky because he's done now. He's a free agent.
No, I expect them to address it in free agency. I don't think Mac Jones or Kyle Trask put you in any better spot than it would to get somebody in free agency.
So you think? I mean, who in free agency would you say is a?
I mean,
Mac Jones, because in Mac Jones, whereas whoever you get in free agency is a quarterback for maybe the next 2 or 3 years, right?
It depends. I mean, Jimmy G, if they can find a way to get Jimmy G.
Oh, you're on mute again. There you go.
I think I froze because you glitched out on me for a second. If you can find a way to get Jimmy G for cheap. Okay. A second or third rounder, I think that would be a good fit and solid value. I mean, I think they'd be stupid to not make a play for Deshaun Watson. I'd throw the house. I'd throw a first this year, a second this year, a first next year, a second next year. I'd throw the house for Deshaun Watson if I'm Chicago. He literally just posted that comment. Exactly. I'd do something like that. I don't address it. I don't think Mac Jones or Kyle Trask puts you in any better spot, even in 2 or 3 years from now. I really don't.
Okay. Well,
I don't think they have enough around them. Like Bobby Macy cannot be your starting tackle. Like he can't. Like.
All right. I mean, I guess it makes sense. And I always talk about how I like to build a team from the inside out. So I like offensive and defensive linemen as your first round picks. But it just seemed like this was a team that's screaming for quarterback. I do think if they go this way, even if Leatherwood turns out to be Larry Allen for his career, I think that, Bears fans are going to be pissed about this pick.
Well, they've been pissed about a lot of picks, and they haven't worked out. So, let's just see.
At number 20, the Jacksonville Jaguars get to pick again. They took Trevor Lawrence with the first overall pick, and now this is their, I believe, Jalen Ramsey pick here. So who are they going to take at number 20 to go with Trevor Lawrence?
Man, this was another one where I think they could have done a lot of picks. Now, I'm always going to be the guy that if you take a quarterback in the first round, in top 3 especially, your next pick better be somebody to help that quarterback. You don't go quarterback, then take a corner or something like that, in my opinion. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going Elijah Vera Tucker, the versatile offensive lineman out of Southern Cal. He was the guard last year while Austin Jackson was there, and then he kicked out and played tackle this year. In the run game, he's a little suspect, but as a pass blocker, man, the guy's good. I mean, he's really good, honestly. So, and they need help along the offensive line in multiple spots, and versatility is key for Elijah Vera Tucker. I think he'll be able to play multiple positions. So, I mean, you've got to help out Trevor Lawrence, and I don't love a lot of the wide receivers here. So.
Well, and I didn't hate this pick. I think it makes sense. Again, like I said, there's a team that has a lot of holes. You've addressed your biggest hole at quarterback, which actually wasn't their biggest hole, but you take the top player who's
yes.
whatever. But now you've got to protect them, and I think the offensive line is a hole for them. So, yeah, I think it definitely helps out if he can step in. Although you say, I mean, is this a guy who can step in right away, or is it going to take him that year to kind of get accustomed to NFL pass rushers?
Well, yeah, but this is a team that's in a full rebuild mode, so it doesn't matter if it takes him a year kind of thing. like you're preparing for that essentially. Like, you're not coming in and thinking you're going to win the NFC South next year. So.
At number 21, the Indianapolis Colts. This is a team that you had pegged for the Super Bowl, and they could make that run. They've got Phillip Rivers right now at quarterback. Jacob Eason seems to be the heir apparent. They took him in the second round last year. So who is their 21st pick going to be?
I have edge talent out of Georgia, Azeez Ojulari. They need help along the defensive side, specifically an edge rusher. And Azeez is just a multi-versatile guy. I think he can play a kind of an array of spots along the defensive front if you need him to. He can be like your Sam linebacker. Then he can also put his hand down and rush the passer and things like that. So I think he's a very versatile guy. And also, I'm telling you, anytime you succeed like he succeeded in the SEC, you're going to go high. Like you just are, because you're playing high-end talent a lot, and he succeeded against those guys. So
when I put these highlights together, I almost do like minor scouting myself because I'm putting these clips together and watching him. When I watched him, unlike the guy from Notre Dame, like I said, just is pure speed. With watching this guy, he just bowls people over. Like he's so strong, just pushes offensive linemen backwards into the backfield.
Yeah, he's got a really good mix, honestly. He's explosive and physical, and that's a good mix, especially for an edge rusher. He needs to define his technique and things like that and develop secondary moves. But, I mean, I think most college pass rushers do. But, I mean, I think he has the ability, and he fits this kind of player that Indianapolis likes.
At 22, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, your team. Who are they going to take to go with Tom Brady and company? They're making a Super Bowl run this year. Maybe they get there. Maybe they don't. Maybe they win it. But either way, if they win it, obviously they're drafting at 32. But let's say they end up at 22. What could they get Tom in terms of help?
Again, to be fair, to preface this, I always will go with the higher seed until they win or lose. So that's why I have Washington technically beating Tampa, because Tampa is actually the lower seed, even though Washington lost more games. So that's why I have it set up this way for any of those that are going to freak out about the draft order. I don't have Washington actually beating Tampa. It's just in this, that's what I do. I have Tampa going Jason Owe, the stupid talented freak athlete edge rusher out of Penn State. He's supposed to run in the 4.3s. And I just think the athletic talent will be too much to pass. JPP is getting up there in age. Shaquille Barrett is great, but you can never have more pass rushing talent. And at this point, I don't see a huge, glaring off the charts need for us. Defensive line is one that I think we could address. A Christian Barrymore makes a ton of sense for us here. But honestly, I got Jason Owe as just a more special player. I think edge talent is much harder to find.
See, and it's funny that Brandon would ask this question for real. Najee Harris here in Tampa Bay. I actually was going to ask you about Etienne because I just feel like that, especially with Etienne, because of the way that Brady likes to use running backs. Like he's like a James White kind of.
Again, I won't take a running back in the first round ever. I just won't. They're not. That's not where their value lies. Also, Ronald Jones is liked in Tampa. Bruce Arians loves Ronald Jones. He loves him. He likes him a lot. And I think he performed well in a lot of games this year. So I don't think investing in a running back in the first round is the best way for this team to move forward.
Okay, that's fair. The Cleveland Browns. Oh, did I skip a pick? No, the Cleveland Browns pick at 23. I guess who do they pick? I guess I don't really have any lead into that.
Shocked that they're here, right? I know. I think Cleveland is pretty sound on offense. Truthfully, if they can move Odell and get a talent back, then I think that's kind of going to be the kicker. I think if Odell doesn't want to be there, they got to figure out what they're going to do. And if they do move him, they're going to have a hole at wide receiver. But until they do, I can't just assume that. So I've got Trevon Moehrig, the uber-talented safety from TCU. He just is extremely versatile, and I think he fits really what that offense or that defense needs in their secondary. I think they need a playmaker back there to just kind of run the show from the back end. Denzel Ward is obviously an insanely stupid talent. Myles Garrett is arguably the best pass rusher in the league, not named Aaron Donald. So I mean, you keep loading these talent on these various levels, and I think that's, kind of the goal here.
All right. So my question on this one, which it puzzled me because when we talked about him, he's a true, basically like a one deep safety. He's a free safety, like the definition of it, right? Just plays the outfield perfectly. They drafted Grant Delpit with a second round pick last year. So like, why go and get basically the same type of player?
Because he's better than Grant Delpit. I mean, if a guy that you pick doesn't perform, like, this is the same argument, that essentially I made for why you wouldn't take Kyle Pitts in the first round because you drafted 2 tight ends in the second round. Now I get Kyle Pitts is the better player, but in this spot, I mean, Grant Delpit really performed poorly all season. It didn't look like, he was showing well, and he also performed poorly going into that. He was one of the higher rated safeties going into the league or going into the draft, and then performed really badly. So it's really kind of just, you put a second rounder in a guy, but that guy didn't pan out whatsoever. So Trevor Mooring is a much better prospect.
Brandon says, I like that pick at 23. Fills a huge hole for them. They missed last year on the guy whose name I can't. Grant Delpit. Thank you very much.
And I love Grant Delpit. I mean, I really do. And if Grant Delpit turns around, then great. Then you've just got more secondary pieces. But Trevor Mooring, I mean, don't get me wrong. He is a one high safety. I think he has the ability to play in the box. You don't want him to be a linebacker type or anything, but he can come down and cover safeties if you need. I mean,
they already have Jabril Peppers anyways.
No, I know that, but I mean, like, he can come down and still play, like on top of a tight end if you need him to. Much better than Grant Delpit will.
At 24, the Baltimore Ravens, so we went from the Browns to the Browns, essentially here. The Baltimore Ravens select at 24. Again, it's a team that's in the playoffs. Really, it's tough to find when you get to these 24 and down teams holes because they're teams that went 12-4 or whatever. And now you're just kind of like adding depth to the team. But I guess where would Baltimore address? Would they add depth, or are they going to fill a hole?
I think a little bit of both in Wyatt Davis, the interior offensive lineman from Ohio State. Baltimore kind of lost their identity this year. They couldn't run the ball as successfully this year. Obviously the loss of Marshall Yanda was huge, and things like that. But I think Wyatt Davis is able to come in and fill the kind of hole they missed in that interior offensive line. The guy's just a hoss. I mean, he just is good at what he does. If he gets his hands on you, it's over. You've lost. Move on to the next play.
Well, I think that my favorite thing about him is, and we talked about when we talked about him in the prospects, is his nickname, the Destroyer of Worlds. I think anybody with a nickname like that, I want them on my offensive line.
100, and that's he fits Baltimore. I mean, he is going to maul people, and that he's vicious, and that's what Baltimore likes to do. I honestly think this pick. I mean, it's weird to say it, but I honestly think this pick makes them better, which is kind of weird to say.
Well, I mean, it's a first round pick. It should make you better.
No, I know, but like it. I think it genuinely affects their team because that's their culture is running the football and things like that, and they weren't able to do that as efficiently this year. And I think Wyatt Davis will allow them to do that.
And we mentioned it last episode. Wyatt Davis is the son of Dwayne Davis, the actor who played Alvin Mack in the program. I should have brought up a highlight of him talking trash.
Talking shit, yeah.
And also played a football player in the movie Necessary Roughness. He was a wide receiver named Featherstone.
Which is wild because he was to see him play a wide receiver and then a massive linebacker in the program was insane.
Number 25, the Washington football team. Again, a team that squeaks into the playoffs at 7-9. Really could have easily missed the playoffs and been in the top half of the draft with the rest of their NFC East brethren, but somebody had to make it from that division. So I guess what do they do? What do they do at 25?
The Mac Jones fall ends, and I've got Washington football team selecting Mac Jones, quarterback from Alabama. I think at this point it's pretty good value. He can sit behind Alex Smith and maybe even press Alex Smith for a starting position if he does perform well in camp, but he's not going to be expected to walk in there and be a day one starter and things like that, which I don't think Mac Jones needs that kind of pressure. So I really do think this is kind of a good spot for Washington. And they're able to land a quarterback of the future, per se, at 25.
I think this is a phenomenal pick, and I think that the Dwayne Haskins experiment did not work out. And I think what makes taking a quarterback at 25 a little bit easier than taking one at 5 or 10 is, again, you feel like there's not as big a risk if he doesn't pan out. Yeah. But obviously Mac Jones comes from a system under Nick Saban. I think that pretty much anybody from Alabama, no matter what position they play, is going to be a solid player in the NFL. Even if they're not a star or an all-pro, they're going to be solid.
Agreed. And the big thing here, too, is like you said, it's you're not investing a ton of capital, and again, the pressure's not on him. Like, if he comes in and doesn't beat out Alex Smith in camp, and Alex Smith is the starter next season, nobody's screaming, "Oh no, it's a bust." You know what I mean? Everybody's like, "Okay, that's kind of what we expected. Let's see how he progresses through the season." And I think that's huge for a rookie quarterback to not have that kind of pressure.
I did see Brandon does not like us calling them the Washington football team, but that is their name until they change it to the Red Wolves next year when they get the licensing from the guy who bought up 10,000 licenses.
Well, Red Wolves is like Arizona Tech or Arkansas State. That's right. Arkansas State owns the Red Wolves.
Well, do they own the license to it? I thought there was a guy who got Wolves, Red Tails.
I don't think it's Red Wolves. Because Red Wolves is an actual. I think it's the Arkansas State Red Wolves, and so I think they own the licensing to it. I know he owns like the Renegades, all kinds of fucking names.
Guardians, all that stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of names. That guy's a genius.
Yeah. But yeah, Red Wolves to me was my favorite of all of them.
I like that. I like Red Tails too, though, and kind of. Not play into, but, go with the national heritage and things like that.
And, of course, I'll throw it out there. My favorite idea was that Disney buys the team and they have the Washington Avengers.
That is what should happen.
Yeah. And then, like you said, we were talking about putting a little bit of a theme park around the stadium. Yeah.
They would make so much money. It would be such a stupid attraction. Imagine the Super Bowl there. Oh, my God.
Brandon, I'm not posting your comments because I think it's just going to get you in trouble. The number 26, the Tennessee Titans. Again, another team that did really well. Derrick Henry's a monster. Speaking of destroyers of worlds, he's just a monster. He just looks like a defensive tackle running a 4-5 out there, just bullying people over. But what do they need? What do the Titans need? They got A.J. Brown, I think, last year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, okay.
Honestly, I think they're pretty set on offense. I think they look good. Jonnu Smith, they could use a tackle maybe because, but now I know they drafted one last year in Isaiah Wynn, but I would think one of these tackles is leaving, either Taylor Lewan or, what was the other one? I can't remember his name. I think Taylor Lewan just signed an extension anyway, but, their right tackle is very good too. And he's just slipping me right now and I apologize. But so I believe that Isaiah Wynn could step in, but a tackle is still in play. That's just kind of the way this team drafts. I think they're going to go edge in Carlos Basham, the edge talent from Wake Forest. I just think he's he just really fits what they want. I mean, look at him. He just looks like a football player. I mean, he's big, he's mean, he's physical. I don't think he's not going to wow you off the edge by any means, but I mean, he's going to do a lot of the dirty work. He's going to be their Trey Flowers, essentially.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm watching him play. I was like, man, he just – like you said, he looks like DK Metcalf, and he just
looks like a football player. Exactly. He's the guy you walk off the bus first. You know what I mean?
Now, Jadeveon Clowney's still there, right? So he'd be kind of on the other side?
Yeah, well, Jadeveon's a one-year deal. So that's kind of where this pick is coming from is, you prepare for the future and you prepare for guys leaving and you don't want to leave yourself in a spot where you're stuck. And if you sign Jadeveon to another year-long deal, well, then you've got Carlos Basham and you can never have enough defensive line talent. You know what I mean? So yes, that maybe he just plays opposite. Maybe he takes that spot over. It's a combination of things.
At 27, the New York Jets get to pick again. They traded Jamal Adams to the Seahawks. Obviously, at the start of the season, they got a first-round pick out of it, and they are going to pick at number 27. They took, with their first pick, Justin Fields. So I know Trevor Lawrence got an offensive tackle to go with him. What does Justin Fields get to go with him in New York?
I did think long and hard about Samuel Cosmi. I really did, and thought about putting Mekhi Becton and Samuel Cosmi together, but they have nothing on their roster at running back, and Travis Etienne is a top 10 talent. I've got Travis Etienne, the running back from Clemson here. I know I don't draft first round running backs, but I mean, it's the Jets. Let's be real here. And honestly, at 27, that's when you kind of start thinking about it at that point. I do think they'll be in play to move down for somebody who wants to move up and gets Kyle Trask. But I think Travis Etienne would be very, very hard to pass here for the Jets.
I like him a lot. And like I said, he's my favorite of putting together highlights. There's so many. I could just put together a 2-minute long, just incredible highlights of him. And the way he runs the ball, I personally, I love him. I would take him as a top 15 player. I really would. I think he's just phenomenal. I know you don't like taking running backs in the first round, but I think if your running back turns out to be Derrick Henry or Josh Jacobs, then they're worth that first round pick. Even if you only get 5, 6, 7 years out of them, that's fine. Good. That's a good pick spent. So I have no problem with Etienne going higher than this, but I think if they got Justin Fields and Travis Etienne, I think that'd be a really exciting team to watch next year.
I agree. And it's the start of something new. And imagine Urban Meyer coaching that offense. I think it would be, something special. They obviously need to figure out, like Brandon has said here, they need to figure out their GM and their front office and things like that. But, Joe Douglas is there and he's going to be there and, you're going to have to work around it. But, it's a great start. You can't argue with the start.
At 28, the Pittsburgh Steelers are a team that looked great for the first 11 games, and then didn't look so great after that. Obviously, Big Ben, we don't know what his situation is going to be. Their defense is always solid. It doesn't matter who you plug in there; they just always seem to have a great defense. So, again, it's a team. Where do we go with Pittsburgh?
This one was tough, man. I'm not going to lie, it was tough. I don't think they go for a rookie quarterback. I really don't. I just don't see Pittsburgh doing that. And not at 28 either. I know Kyle Trask is there, but I personally just don't see it. I have him going Najee Harris, the running back out of Alabama. James Conner is off his rookie deal. He's probably done. I wouldn't re-sign him. There's no point to. He's going to demand more money than he's worth, in my opinion. And I think Najee Harris steps in immediately and honestly gives you more than what James Conner did. And that's still what this team wants to do. They're still a running football team. They still want to pound the football and play NFC North football and play defense. So I think Najee Harris is the perfect fit for that.
Yeah, I guess for me, when I saw the pick, I didn't realize James Conner is at the end of his contract. So I was like, why would you take a running back in the first round to make him a committee running back? But I guess if Conner's gone, then it makes him kind of Najee Harris be the number one back there.
Yeah, Najee Harris would step in, and then Benny Snell, the player they took last year, would be their kind of committee guy. And, I understand it's kind of a luxury pick, but, these are kind of the picks you make when you've got a lot of talent. Like there's not a ton of spots for them to fill. They could go corner here, I guess. They could continue to address that defense, but I don't know. Personally, I think Najee Harris is a bigger impact player, especially when you're a playoff caliber team like that's perpetually kind of competing for the Super Bowl,
And then, that one. Brandon calls him Derrick Henry 2.0. I don't think he's a skinnier, faster kind of.
Yeah, he's. Not even close to what Derrick Henry does physically wise. I think Najee Harris is probably more athletic too, like in doing things like you see him jump over guys all the time. Just because they came from Alabama doesn't mean they're the same guy. But
29, the New Orleans Saints get to pick, and again, another team who's doing really well. Drew Brees, is this his last year? I think it could be. They don't know what they're going to do at the quarterback position. Obviously, it could be Taysom Hill, it could be Jameis Winston. The defense seems to be pretty solid. I don't think they need a whole lot of there. They held the Buccaneers to 3 points, right? So what would you say is the biggest need for New Orleans here at 29?
When you're drafting this late and this guy kind of falls to you, I think I'd take him. I got Kyle Trask, quarterback from Florida, going to the New Orleans Saints. Like Brandon, I think Jameis Winston's out of there. And even if Drew Brees stays, then I think this is a perfect – I wouldn't start Kyle Trask from day one anyway. Not only that, I think him and Sean Payton is truly like a match made in heaven. Like, I think this is the exact kind of quarterback Sean Payton wants. I think he is going to be extremely well at running the offense they run. Every throw you show is him pushing the ball down the field, but I honestly don't think that's what he does best. So I think this is truthfully a match made in heaven for the Saints and Kyle Trask.
Well, especially because we talked about his lack of mobility and how that's kind of a detriment in today's NFL. Well, if there's any offensive system, I mean, Drew Brees might be the most elite.
That's what I mean. It's
Mobile.
perfect. Get out the ball quick, make quick decisions, find your open receivers, and move on to the next play. And honestly, I think that's what Kyle Trask does best. So,
yeah, perfect. So you bring him in. Hopefully, Drew Brees sticks around to kind of guide him. But if not, then I guess you got the quarterback competition between Taysom Hill and Kyle Trask.
And I mean, you mentioned, like when you watch Kyle Trask, you see he struggles to make that second and third read sometimes, and he'll stare down that first. Well, if your first read, it's designed to come out like that, like in New Orleans offense. That's bread and butter right there, baby.
At 30, the Buffalo Bills went 13-3. They have a pretty solid roster as well. They don't need a whole lot. So again, these are all basically luxury picks at this point, 30, 31, 32. Who would the Buffalo Bills like to, pick as a luxury pick?
I'm going offensive line help. I got Samuel Cosmi, the offensive lineman out of Texas. I know he's listed as a tackle. I think he'd play guard for this team to start, and I think he has every ability to do that. I mean, at this point, you got to protect Josh Allen. He's not necessarily running for his life, but I mean, he needs better protection. They're losing, I believe it's 2 guys off the offensive line this year, possibly. We've got 2 free agents along the offensive line. So I just think, you can never have enough talent guys there, and I think Samuel Cosmi feels a need.
It protects your, again, franchise player. You've got a rookie running back basically back there. Plus, you've got Devin Singletary back there as well, I think, right?
Yeah.
So you got a couple of decent running backs. What's that? I was saying Moss was the guy they drafted last year. Yeah. And then, of course, you got Diggs at receiver. Again, it's a pretty solid team. You just add some additional protection, give Josh Allen some more time to throw the ball downfield, which he does better than anybody except for Michael Vick.
Yeah, I think they're going to take a long, hard look at a coverage linebacker, too. Nick Bolton is a guy that I think will get a hard look. But, again, I don't think I'd take a coverage linebacker at this spot. I personally think I'd go tackle or offensive line or something like that and try to address linebacker later in the draft.
The Green Bay Packers last year took a first-round quarterback. They took a running back later on. And I'm curious, are they going to take a quarterback again this year?
God, I hope not. I actually finally have him getting some help. I got him going Rondale Moore, the wide receiver out of Purdue, who I think has dropped a little bit. I mean, I have him rated in the top 15 as a prospect, but I think it's going to be tough for him in this draft to find an actual hole. That being said, I think he's the perfect fit in Green Bay. Now, we talked about Alan Lazard and Martez Valdez-Scalding and Devontae Adams, these bigger guys. I think Rondale Moore is the complete opposite of that. He's that guy that he's your utility knife. You know what I mean? You're going to throw in the backfield. He's going to make catches out of the backfield. He's going to play in the slot. He's going to do all kinds of things and be this explosive part of this offense that I think they're missing.
That was going to be my question, is that, we talked about the receivers really being 6'4", 6'5", and this guy's 5'10". But like you said, you can use him in multiple different ways, and he is obviously explosive. That's what they need on offense. Actually, they don't. With Aaron Rodgers, you don't need anything. Just give him a bunch of garbage men, and he'll throw for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns.
That's just what he does. I mean, that's just what he does. More than likely, they'll address the defensive side of the position, side of the ball. That's just what they do. They draft defensive line, linebackers, things like that. They draft first-round priority positions. That's what they do usually. But I think it'd be hard to pass Rondale Moore at this point.
And with the last pick in the first round, the Kansas City Chiefs last year took Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which seems to be a really great pick. He was a favorite of a lot of people's fantasy in and out offense. Everybody would be. So do they boost the offense again this year?
No, I think they address defense now, and I go Christian Barmore, the interior defensive lineman from Alabama. Man, I just think that this again is a luxury pick. They don't necessarily need him, but I mean, the kid's a special talent. He has the ceiling is out the wazoo. So I mean, you pair him with Chris Jones, and that team gets scary on defense. So I mean, that's the goal.
Now, would he play more of an edge, or did he play interior line with Jones?
He play interior, so they run like a 3-4 kind of hybrid there. And he would play the opposite defensive end. In that scheme, because they use edge rushers, not defensive ends. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they use a defensive end to tackle defensive end, and then edges. So I think he would be either the defensive tackle or the edge. You can move him along that defensive line in all three spots. And then when they go 4 down, he would play on the interior.
Brandon says Jordan Love will love the pick. Aaron Rodgers will be pissed wherever he's at.
I don't see any. God, could you imagine moving Aaron Rodgers?
I can't. I just don't understand how you do it. He likes the Christian Barrymore pick. I guess my question for you, this is kind of off the topic a little bit, but we talked about the 3-4 they run in Kansas City. I haven't played Madden in forever. I've become more of a FIFA guy. But when I played Madden, I always ran a 4-3. What was your preferred defense?
I would run a 4-3 also. It would kind of depend. So personally, like in Madden, I run a 4-3 because I think it's easier to run coverage, but I run 4-2 nickel most of the time. Like my base coverage is nickel. But in real life, I know it's odd, but in real life, I think the 4-3 under, which is essentially just a 3-4, is the best defensive scheme. So.
Oh, okay. I was just curious because I used to play it all the time, and that was my main thing: is where to put the guys, where to blitz it, and my favorite. Remember, I think it was Madden 11 or something like that, where you could design your own custom formations and play
yeah.
it.
That's when it started. You can still do that now, I believe.
So. No, you can't do it anymore because I think that people learned because you can create nano blitzes and people sell like nano blitz books online for like $20 to show you how to line up your guys so that you can get a sack within 2 seconds of snapping the ball. And so when you could create your own formation, like now in order to do it, you have to move this guy over here and then put this guy in coverage and move this guy over here. Like before, you could just design the play that way. And so it made it too easy for people to cheat online.
Yeah, I haven't played Madden. I haven't owned a system, so I play it, but I don't actually do it.
Brandon asks, Sully, when we get in some Madden, I'll teach you how to play.
Never. So I can sit down and play video games. I can't buy a system and do I just can't see myself doing that. Like I can go to a friend's house and play and shit like that, but I could never see myself buying a system and playing.
All right. Well, that is the show. That's our mock draft, everybody. 32 picks. Hopefully your team picked somebody that you liked. I know my team did not. So obviously we'll have another mock as we get closer to the draft like we did last year. We'll probably bring in some of the sound effects like we did last year with the crowd and the draft jingle, whatever.
Yeah, we'll do a whole mock. We'll get Brandon on and Mike and all the guys from there, and we'll do a whole giant mock.
But that said, how much time do we have left, Kenny?